Sheriff Arlen McCready would later say a plant's locker corridor can swallow the right minute and leave nothing else. But under the punch clock at Union Carbide's Rivergate, a bent time card Chad and a thermos ring in coffee stain still spoke in the humming light. February 18th, 1986. Cedar Grove, Kanawha County, West Virginia. Until DNA finally broke the silence and gave investigators a name to chase. Blocked 1. Route and initial scene. Route and clock. Logged by Sheriff McCready. Samuel Sam Dwyer, 34, line operator, clocked out at 6:47 p.m., with stoveroom grit still on his sleeves and a pay-week thermos in his lunch pail. The drive home is about 15 minutes along Route 21, a winding river road. Weather radio pushed black ice advisories. Porch lights along Cedar Grove usually catch him about 7:10 to 7:15. He did not arrive. At 6:41 a.m. the next morning, a jogger blew an emergency whistle at the Millers Creek bend. By about 7:05 a.m., the sheriff's tape was snapping in the cold. Roadside tableau, he noted. Photographed, mapped. The body lay just off the gravel shoulder in the drainage ditch, torso angled down slope, hands showing defensive nicks that caught the morning frost. Wallet in the hip pocket with folded singles and cards intact. A small Union Carbide key fob on his ring. No coat placed over him. No blanket. No quick cover. 2 vehicle pull-offs showed as soft, overlap ovals in the shoulder, edges softened by the night freeze. No clean tread suitable for casting. No truck on scene. On the watchband, McCready lifted a dark wool microfiber and noted mixed blood spatter that did not behave like a single-source fall. Perimeter artifacts. He inventoried. At the plant, the punch clock slot still shed the bent Chad from Dwyer's card. On the locker ledge, a penny-sized coffee ring where the thermos had sat while he buttoned his gloves. Along Route 21, a short scrape in gravel near the bend suggested a brief stop, not a spin-out. A fresh crow scatter rose at the jogger's whistle. Nothing like that the previous evening, according to a bread truck driver who ran the turn at about 9:30 p.m. and saw nothing unusual. Found and not found. Scene density. Found. Physical. Defensive wounds to forearms and hands. Dark wool fiber on the watchband. Wallet with cash. Keyring with carbide fob. Degraded, overlapping pull-offs in the shoulder. Found. Context. 6:47 p.m. clock out. Weather ice warnings on the hour. Expected home by about 7:15. The river bend has no street lighting beyond headlamps. Not found. No truck, no pry or rummage on the victim. No shell cases. No long drag. No clean boot string in the ditch. No curbside witness to a fight on the evening run. Witness pulse. He interviewed, timed, logged. A plant guard saw Dwyer's taillights clear the gate about 6:50 p.m. A delivery driver on a late route reported ordinary traffic and no brake light flare at the bend. The jogger found the body at first light. A breadman who passed about 4:40 a.m. saw a dark patch like trash, but did not stop. McCready wrote each minute on a card and pushed them into a row. Clock out, arrow river road, arrow silence. Surface and illumination, constraints he marked. Shoulder mix was winter soft gravel over frozen base. Tread edges smear within minutes when the crust skins. Air about the low 20s Fahrenheit. The bend sits in river shade until the sun clears trees. Sound carries as truck hum and crow chatter, not voices. Immediate response. He locked the core. The sheriff sealed blood vials, lifted the wool fiber, bagged wallet and keyring after photographs, and paced the shoulder for any crisp tread worth casting. He flagged 2 oval pull-offs and marked them degraded. Chain of custody slips ran clean from ditch to evidence room. Working window, minutes, not hours. From 6:47 punch to about 7:15 porch light expectation sits the operational route span. Coroner's early estimate set death about 7 to 9 p.m., but McCready underlined the road reality. The minute scale window was about 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. on the river road. Enough time to pull off, step close, strike, and go, without drawing the valley. A bent punch card Chad under humming fluorescence, a thermos ring drying on metal, and a ditch that held a man while his truck was nowhere. McCready drew a red bracket around about 25 minutes. Along the river, the shift changed again, and house lights on Maple Street burned for a man who never turned in. Block 2. Assumptions versus evidence. Black ice slide or single vehicle loss. What we would expect. A skid arc that carries past the crown. A gouge at the shoulder lip. Fresh coolant or oil dribble. A guardrail kiss. And the truck left on scene or below the berm. What we have. No gouge. No guardrail transfer. No fluid track. And no truck. The shoulder showed 2 short overlap ovals. Not the long, feathered smear of a rotation. A black ice loss does not make the vehicle disappear. Robbery gone bad. What we would expect. Wallet removed or rifled. Cards spread. Pockets turned. A missing ring or watch. What we have. Wallet in the hip pocket. Folded singles intact. Key ring present with the Union Carbide fob. No pocket turn, no rummage. Motive is not the cash. Hit and run by a passing vehicle. What we would expect. Headlight glass, paint chips, bumper height injuries, and either a pedestrian position in the lane or a long drag down the ditch wall. What we have. Body just off the gravel shoulder. Defensive nicks on the hands. Mixed blood spatter inconsistent with a clean throw from a bumper. And no debris from a strike vehicle. A passing car impact does not fit these edges. Voluntary step out or walk off. What we would expect. The driver parks, sets hazards, locks up, and the truck remains. What we have. No truck, no hazard residue, and a brief stop signature in the shoulder with softened edges. Not a parked dwell. If Sam stepped out by choice, his vehicle would mark the scene. Consensual curb exchange. What we would expect. Brake light flare, a horn tap, someone recalling a pull-along at the bend, maybe a quick wave. Evening drivers reported ordinary traffic. No horn, no abrupt brake lights in the about 6:55 to 7:20 span. The river road gave no street-level signatures. Self-harm or exposure. What we would expect. Absence of defensive injury, personal effects arranged or a note, and no mixed source blood. What we have. Defensive cuts on the forearms and hands and mixed blood that does not behave like a single person fall. The ditch does not read as a self-placed end. Dump site versus scene of attack. If the bend were only a dump, we would expect a long drag or roll line and tighter tire logic at the shoulder. McCready saw 2 short overlap ovals that read pull off, pull out, no long drag, and blood patterning that suggests close contact near the ditch rather than a distant assault and long transport. The road tells of short removal and placement, with the vehicle leaving immediately. Work-adjacent contact, tested as a line, not a fact. The plant side gave a bent chad under the punch clock and a thermos ring where Dwyer paused to button gloves. That fixes his exit moments. A person with reason to approach a line operator could time a brief pull-off on the river road without drawing eyes. The case file supports opportunity, not yet identity. The line stays working, not concluded. False lead, decisive fact. The tempting reads are black ice or robbery. The decisive fact is the missing truck in the presence of intact cash. Accidents leave vehicles. Thieves take money. Here, neither happened. Add the 2 short pull-offs and mixed blood at ditch edge, and the ordinary explanations collapse. Era limits. McCready underlined the gaps. 1986 on a river bend meant no fixed cameras, no synced digital timers, no cellular breadcrumbs. Valley clocks drift about 2 to 3 minutes, and frozen shoulder crust smears tread within minutes. Minutes, not metadata, carry the case. Provisional read. Present versus absent. Black ice slide. Not supported. No vehicle, no gouge, no fluid. Robbery. Not supported. Wallet with folded singles intact. Hit and run. Not supported. No debris. Pattern not pedestrian throw. Self-harm. Not supported. Defensive injury and mixed blood. Consensual pull-along. Weak. No curb signatures in the band. Short, close assault at the shoulder with the assailant removing Dwyer's truck afterward. Best fit to pull off ovals, mixed blood, and silence on the road. Working window, minutes, not hours. From 6:47 punch to about 7:15 porch light expectation, McCready boxed about 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. as the live span. Enough time to pull in, step close, strike, and be gone without stirring the valley. A bent punch card Chad under humming plant lights, a thermos ring drying on metal, and two soft ovals in winter gravel where a truck paused and left, without him. The sheriff inked a narrow band of minutes on a card. Along Route 21, the shift whistle blew again, and a porch lamp waited past supper with no headlights turning in. Block 3. From case file to cold case. Community search. McCready organized, mapped, and logged. Before First Son had warmed the river shade, the sheriff split deputies and volunteers into bank left, bank right, and berm top lines. Plant security walked the fence lane. A John boat worked eddies below the Miller's Creek mouth when the fog lifted. Canine ran the shoulder edge but lost thread in freeze crust and traffic scent. A bread driver who passed about 4:40 a.m. could add only that the bend looked quiet in his mirror. By afternoon, the creek margin, the pullouts, and two gravel spurs were chalked, photographed, and cleared of large sign. No long drag, no coat toss, no blade in the grass. What the file actually preserved, photographed, bagged, and sealed. Blood vials, mixed pattern, from ditch edge and sleeve. Dark wool microfiber from the watch band, mounted on card. Wallet with folded singles and Union Carbide fob, photographed in situ, then paper bagged. Punch clock Chad under the plant slot, coin envelope. Thermos ring notation on the locker shelf. Photo and swab for background, not probative. Shoulder ovals. Scale rod photos and measurements of two short overlap pull-offs. Edges already softened by night freeze. No castable tread. Control soil from the berm and creek margin. Chain of custody shows paper packaging, dated seals with McCready's initials, and evidence room entries without gaps. Why it cooled in 1986. Limits, McCready wrote in the margin. The Riverbend had no fixed cameras, no synced digital timers, no cellular breadcrumbs. Winter shoulder crust smeared tire edges within minutes. Serology of the day gave ABO and enzyme screens that could not resolve a second contributor from mixed stains at low levels. RFLP needed long, intact strands the ditch cold did not grant. The truck was absent, and statewide BOLOs against plates and scrapyards produced no hit. Too many similar pickups, too few minutes. Witness clocks drifted about 2 to 3 minutes. None placed a curb event in the band. Casework beyond the bend, what was done and what stayed thin. DMV queries on recent title transfers in the weeks after the killing flagged volumes of ordinary sales. Plant rosters confirmed 6:47 p.m. clockout and a routine glove button pause by the lockers. The guard shack log noted taillights about 6:50, facts that boxed the route but did not name a companion. McCready re-interviewed the nearest houses along Route 21 twice that week. No horn, no brake light flare, no argument at the bend entered the record. Paper and custody, how it waited for modern tools. The sheriff's envelopes, blood, fiber, Chad, sat in a brown box with desiccant and a typed index. Property room shelf B3. Annual file reviews added memos, but no destructive testing. Notes in McCready's hand read, evidence clean, technique poor by our time. Exactly the condition that later triage programs look for. Working window remembered. Minutes, not hours. The file spine never changed. About 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. on the river road. Enough time to pull off, step close, strike, and leave, with winter erasing the lightest sign. A coin envelope marked Punch Chad, February 18th, 1886. A fiber card in tape corners, and shoulder photos where two soft ovals sit like breath on cold gravel. Paper seals held for years behind a steel door. On Maple Street, a porch lamp kept burning on winter evenings long after the whistle changed shifts without him. Block 4. Technicals and breakthrough. Why the state came. Paper reason, not drama. In 2024, the Attorney General's cold case triage flagged Whitlow-Dwyer evidence as genealogically viable. Paper-bagged items with intact, dated seals. Minimal handler history. Upon the county's request for technical assistance under the state MAU, Detective Lauren Pike signed out Sheriff McCready's sealed box and entered it into the state lab audit. Reopened kit. Pike's packets, analyst's gloves. Unsealed one at a time. Watchband inner weave, secondary lift. Shirt sleeve cuff, archival swab redo. The punch clock Chad from under the slot. Thermos shelf swab from the locker note. Blood vials, ditch edge and sleeve for re-screening. And control soil. Fresh gloves each item. Tool changes between lifts. Bench and forceps pre- and post-swabs logged. When the envelopes opened, cotton carried a faint plant oil/carbon dust scent. The Chad, flat and oily, still printed a tiny grease shadow on the audit sheet. Low template attempts, where the old playbook stalled. qPCR read sub-nanogram on the watchband inner weave and the Chad face. Mini STR from those sites returned stutter-prone partials, non-reportable alone. VMD on the watchband lift showed faint ridge flow, as if sweat, not force, pressed the surface. Controls were clean. The stall was power, not process. SNP turn signal enough to map. Analysts composited the watchband interweave lift plus Chad face and built a low-input SNP library. Fragment length centered about 120 to 150 base pairs. Post-QC call rate about 92 to 94%. Mixture assessment supported a single-source male distinct from Dwyer and all eliminations. Family, plant guard, responding deputies, coroner tech. Bench blanks and reagent controls were negative. One analyst wrote in the margin, the library stitched fragments like torn paper into a usable tree. FGG guardrails. Lead, not proof. Upload limited to opt-in LE portals with a full audit packet. Hashes, timestamps, named access. No non-consenting databases. Every view export logged. Pike's header line matched McCready's old note. Notes point. Proof compares. Microtrace. Class traits that bent the story, not conclusions. Watchband cuff. SEM found halite crystals and fine cinder consistent with Winter River road spread. And aluminum silicate dust typical of plant-adjacent surfaces. Chad film. GCMS flagged light mineral oil with a graphitic fraction. Press oil tool handle profile, not kitchen residue. Fiber card, archival. The dark wool microfiber read as worsted navy wool, common to pea coats and winter work coats. None is source unique. Together, they live in the world of a work truck stop in minutes, not a passerby's stroll. Tree build and minute filter. Pike's map expanded. Second, third cousin matches converged on a central Appalachia line with anchors in Kanawha Boone in the 1960s to 80s. Public records scaffolded the MRCA. Age sex gates narrowed to males mid-20s to mid-40s in 1986. A geography time filter trimmed further. Documented evening routes along Route 21 inside about 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. Rolls that naturally bring oil graphite and spread dust. Road and bridge seasonal. Tow. Salvage night call. Contract plant service. Company paperwork showed vending fuel maintenance tickets logged late evenings, aligning with the minute band McCready boxed. Shortlist. No more than 3. Working, not conclusive. The pedigree plus residue pattern and minutes yielded a shortlist led by Earl Buddy Hartzell, 30 in 1986. Seasonal road crew / tow assist with night pulls on the river road. Tenants near the bend remembered a dark wool coat and a work truck idling short at winter's edge. 2 controls rounded the list. A contract plant fitter and a salvage driver whose logs were weaker on the band. Pike marked all 3 as working names, not conclusions. Cross-checks against innocent transfer. The foreign profile repeated across 2 independent lifts, watchband weave and Chad face. All eliminations were negative. Chain of custody remained continuous from McCready's paper to Pike's audit. Upstairs, the context of analogy. Robbery logic failed then and now. Wallet with folded singles intact. no pocket turn. On-scene logic remained. 2 short pull-offs. Mixed blood at ditch edge, no vehicle left. Class traits: halite/cinder, oil/graphite, navy wool. Lived where work hands live on a winter river bend. Working window. Application: minutes, not hours. Pike kept McCready's operational span about 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. Surveillance would target men who could pull off, step close, and leave with the truck in single-digit minutes, then later yield a lawful discard: paper cup, cigarette filter, bottle, suitable for STR confirmation. A watchband lift with sweat quiet ridge, a punch clock chad filmed in oil and graphite, and a SNP tree that finally gave the file a branch to climb. Pike boxed the minutes in red on the worksheet. For years, the box around this case in a steel drawer was silence, until the profile spoke. Block 5, resolution and arrest. Lead to proof, Pike's plan executed. FGG stayed a lead. Pike ran quiet surveillance keyed to the about 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. River Road window and Hartzell's old evening habits. Outside a fuel and tow yard on a cold morning, Earl Buddy Hartzell finished coffee and dropped a paper cup into a curb bin. Pike logged the lawful discard. The cup rim showed a faint yellowed edge from long draws. The lab built a STR profile from the rim and compared it to the SNP-guided foreign profile from the watchband interweave lift and the punch clock chad. The comparison supported common source. With counsel review, Pike obtained a court-authorized confirmatory buccal swab. The second test reproduced the profile without mixture flags. Match statistics. Plain language. The confirmatory report returned RMP less than 1 × 10 to the power of 12 and LR greater than 10 to the power of 9 in favor of the same individual as the foreign contributor. The analyst's sheet carried no caution marks, a clean black line from rim to file. Bench negatives and reagent blanks were clean. All eliminations remained non-matching. Corroboration. Minutes, not hours. Pike emphasized the minute-scale nature of the route. About 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. to pull off, step close, strike, and leave without waking the valley. The bend still read the same. 2 short overlap pull-offs in winter gravel. Mixed blood at ditch edge. No vehicle left. Class traits that lived in the file lived in Hartzell's world. Halite and fine cinder consistent with winter spread. Aluminum silicate dust from plant-adjacent surfaces. A punch chad film of light mineral oil with graphitic fraction. And navy worsted wool consistent with a winter work coat. In the house logic that never changed. Wallet with folded singles and a coin stack whose dust ring outlined each edge, undercut robbery. In records, Pike found tow and road support tickets logged on winter evenings along Route 21, consistent with presence in the band. Drivers on the night reported no horn, no brake light flare. Down at the plant, the bent chad and thermos ring fixed exit minutes. Together, minutes and material pointed to short, close contact and removal of the victim's truck immediately after. Investigators note, working theory. Investigators recorded that tenants and drivers had filed small complaints of aggressive winter pull-offs and smoke drift before. Hartzell's loss of another shift would have risked his job. The working theory remained avoidance of a complaint and job loss, not robbery or a random drive-by. Arrest. Pike led the contact. At 6:08 a.m., in the tow yard's gravel lot, Pike and 2 detectives approached as Hartzell stepped from his truck with a dented thermos. He glanced once toward the yard gate, breath visible in the cool air, then set the thermos down without a word. Pike identified, stated the warrant, and noted immediate compliance. Vehicle and outer garments were in plain view. Any interior search proceeded under separate authority. Charging framework. Pike's memo. Identification. STR from lawful discard. Replicated by court-authorized buccal. Reported with conservative statistics. Access and opportunity. Documented evening route presence inside about 6:55 to 7:20 p.m. the minimal band needed for a short, quiet shoulder contact and a vehicle removal. Corroboration. Scene logic. 2 short pull-offs. Mixed blood. No truck. Class traits. Halite and cinder. Oil and graphite on the Chad film. Navy. Wool. Upstairs context that never supported theft. Wallet and outlined coin stack. Negative eliminations. Continuous custody from McCready's paper to Pike's audit. Pike underlined. FGG pointed. Proof came from discard, STR, buccal. Technical closeout. What was tested? Why sufficient? Tested. Watchband interweave and punch clock Chad as primary touch DNA. Shirt cuff reswab as supportive. Blood vials for context pattern. Thermos shelf background. Plus discard cup and confirmatory buccal. qPCR guided low input handling. STR confirmation met reporting thresholds. Mixture assessment indicated a single source male distinct from Dwyer. All controls were negative. The Chad's thin oil left a shadow on audit paper under light. Dust lifts still carried a faint plant oil and carbon scent. Sufficiency rested on independent replication. The minute scale time distance fit, and non-overlapping controls that closed off innocent transfer and bench carryover. A sweat quiet ridge on a watchband. A greased punch Chad that never should have been under that slot. And a paper cup rim that wrote the same name. Minutes inked in red closed a line. Years of winter evenings on Maple Street stayed unmarked until DNA wrote his name back.